Pretty rough start. You can also hear a little bit of a tick or miss even when it's warmed up and idling, but when it's cold, you can hear it really pronounced. So yeah, she's hurting. Today is injector install day. Did not think about it raining today, but we got to get these injectors installed. Okay, so the truck has 100 and it's supposed to turn on when I do that thing. All right, has no miles on it. Brand new truck. It has 188,000, I think. It has, let's call it 200,000 miles. The injectors are obviously showing that they're failing, they're wearing out. So these injectors are supposed to wait for the piston to be in exactly the right spot, and then they spray, and under all that compression, they spray and close, and the diesel ignites, and boom, you have power. Mine are doing that, but also not closing all the way. At least one, if not more, of these injectors are not closing all the way, and constantly, under fuel pressure, are leaking fuel into the cylinder during intake, compression, power, and exhaust stroke. They're always spraying fuel. A little bit, barely any, but it is problematic. So we have these injectors from Exergy. They are 30% overs from Exergy, which calculated out is 97.5 horsepower over stock. So stock power is supposedly 325 horsepower at the crank, and 600 foot-pounds of torque, I think. The Holden bros know a lot about fine tuning, and we're gonna do that and then re-dyno this truck. But first, I want to get these injectors installed, so let's get that going. I'm really just procrastinating right now and stalling because it's raining. See, it's raining, and I don't want to be out there. So this should be a really smooth running engine when we get these injectors installed. Let's go get wet. Alright guys, well, I have good news and no bad news. Everything is out. Exhaust rockers, injectors, intake stuff, feed tubes, fuel lines, all came out. I had no failures at all. All of the coppers came out on, I don't know if you see that copper ring right there. It's just a seal. Those sometimes stick in the engine, and that is terrible. So all my parts that needed to come out came out. There was a few problems with these. This right here threads onto this. Many of these feed tubes did not want to break free of that fuel line nut. And so this fuel line connects over here to our common rail, and with these attached to the fuel rail and these not breaking free, it was trying to twist these lines. And if y'all look up on YouTube, there is a guy named Project Cummins, and he works on his red Dodge just like this, and when he did it, number 6 tube twisted and sheared off, and it was a $100 part, and he had to wait for it to be shipped to him, so that really sucked. I'm sure. I want to get this done today, so I was really worried about it. Luckily, the guys at Exergy told me it'd be really smart to replace your feed tubes in case there's any debris, and then that's your last bit of filtration prior to the injector. So I bought new ones. I say luckily because I had to put these in a vise and clamp them down in order to spin this nut and have it break free of these threads right here. So we got lucky, a few hurdles, but we jumped them. Now it's just reinstall, and everything there is pretty straightforward. I need to put the copper washers on the injectors, install them in order, and then throw feed tubes in, fuel lines on, exhaust rockers on, and then basically everything else. The electronics for the coils, there's the exhaust rockers, valve cover, and then my intake horn. Then we're done. Then we prime the system. I read somewhere to crack the lines to get air out to start. I also read the opposite, so I'll have to do a little bit of research before we actually crank this thing up, but it is time to install the new ones. Prior to that though, there's something very important that must take place. Celebration. No breakages. We're good so far. It did stop raining, so we're good. It's barely misting, but none of it is making it beyond the hood of my truck. So nothing's getting in the engine, and nothing's getting on me when I'm working on this. So let's do this thing. Alright, new injectors are in, connected, wiring harness is connected, everything's torqued to spec. Fuel lines are connected, feed tubes are torqued down. Yeah, let's see if I can get it to run. So, two awful things. Number one is I put a glove over the intake, right before the intake horn, so that if I dropped any tools or debris or anything, it would not go into my intercooler tube. However, there's positive pressure once the engine started running, and it blew that glove off and almost into the intake. So what I was trying to avoid, I kind of almost created. Secondly, as you can hear from the exhaust now, there is still a persisting tick, 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 tick. So the injectors probably needed to be replaced, but they did not solve that issue. So I called the Holden Bros and they said, bring it in, we will adjust your valve lash, and that is probably what's going to be the issue unless you have a major problem with your valves or head or something like that. Alright guys, we are here back at Holden Diesel, Holden Bros Diesel. We are under the hood of my truck adjusting the valve lash. We already got the first 5 done, we're working on number 6, and on the first one the exhaust valve was way over tightened, which kept it open a little bit, and that's probably where our lope and miss was coming from. So fingers crossed, in just a minute we're going to crank it up and hopefully it will be idling as smooth as we would like. Alright guys, well, I don't have good news at all. We did the valve tolerances, the valve lash adjustment, making sure that the rockers are to spec with the valves. We cranked the thing back up, the noise persisted. So that means it is something big. That means that since injectors are running fine and valves are adjusted to the right tolerance, that means there's probably something wrong with the valve. I'm sad. This girl, this is my baby right here, and she's hurting, so it sucks really bad. Plus we just dumped a bunch of money into injectors, and that's not the issue. So we are going to contact a performance head company manufacturer, and we're going to try to get a head from them, and I guess just go from there. So in conclusion, thank you Exergy Performance for helping us out with some amazing quality injectors. I'm really sad to say that I don't get to see the potential of those injectors quite yet. I was like, today was going to be the fun day where we get the valves adjusted correctly, we put the truck back on the dyno, we crank it up, we do some custom tuning, and we use these nice injectors to their fullest and see how much power we can run through this truck. Unfortunately, that's a terrible idea if you have a bent valve or a burned up valve or whatever else could be going on, which it really is. Those are the only things that I think can be going on, because if it was the piston in any way, shape, or form, we would be having blow-by, and we don't have any power, any pressure coming through that. So it's all exiting the exhaust, which means that exhaust valve is probably toast, or the head, or both, most likely both, because if one is bad, then it will damage the other. So it's a really not fun thing. So Exergy is our first sponsor. Holden Bros have been amazing. These guys have been, they've become friends. It's awesome. So thank you Exergy, thank you Holden Bros, and thank you to our next sponsor, who will hopefully be a head manufacturer, and we'll get some new parts for this truck, throw a bunch more money at this engine, and basically just make a beast out of this thing. But we'll do that, and we will see you on the next project, which we should have probably 4 or 5 projects in between this video and the next homemade horsepower video. So we will see you on the next project. Thanks for watching. Bye!